going on, everybody? My name is Chimpact and welcome to the last week of the regular season power rankings. I'm just going to be going over my top 10 and briefly talking about their team and how they played this season. So at number 10 I have Elliot. Elliot finished the season very strong. If it wasn't for his blunder forgetting that the Rotom had an item, the 50% item, and losing valuable HP from Girder, he likely would have beat Envy. And 4 out of his 5 losses this season have been to playoff teams. And I still believe he has one of the strongest teams in the league because of the oppressive strategies that he can implement. Maybe he was saving them for the playoffs. His only really strong win was against Game Boy Luke, where he was able to 6-0 him with Speed Pass and Garchomp. And like I said, maybe he's saving them for the playoffs to give his opponents a false sense of security going into the games. And at number 9 I have Uzi. I can't say enough about Uzi. The situation that he was put in, it's pretty much nearly impossible to get out of. He barely had any wins. I don't think he had any wins going into his first game. And there was such little room for error in getting a playoff spot, and even up until the last week, he still wasn't guaranteed a playoff spot after he only had 1 loss since he started into the league. And his last opponent was Gator, who hasn't lost since week 1. To get into the playoffs, that's pretty impressive. And it's a team that he wasn't very comfortable with because he said that he would prefer to have a Steel or Dark type on his team. But even so, he was able to pull through. And at number 8, I have Leo. Leo at number 8 does seem a little bit weird for me to even say at this point, but he struggled in the last few weeks of the season, but that's also because the schedule toughened up near the end as well. One thing to consider is that he may be concealing some of his stronger strategies for the playoffs, like many other coaches might be doing. When you look closer at his record, you'll see that only one of his losses is to a non-playoff coach, so the teams that he is losing to are stronger opponents. At number 7 I have Kelly. Kelly has an impressive run this season. The way he was able to use Darmanitan was incredible. It really made me reconsider how I see that Pokemon. I don't really think it's a very versatile Pokemon because all it does is click Flare Blitz and U-turn, occasionally some other coverage moves like Superpower Earthquake. But what it does very well. The two things that I do not like about how Kelly played this season was the Superior and Zygarde play. Superior was mainly used to spread glares around, and Zygarde had the potential to win a game or two that he lost if the sets that he had were better, or if he played it a bit more conservatively. It's such a big threat and it's very difficult to KO. But the way that it died in some of the games that he lost, where it was a little bit too abrupt, and I felt like if he played it a little bit more conservatively, like I said, he would have been able to get a little bit more mileage out of it. But even so, he has a great record, and he's entering the postseason pretty strong. Number 6 I have Pokemon. John's had the most crazy season to me this far. He had Mega Diancie, Alakazam, and Salamence on his team. But combined, every single one of them, all of their KOs, are literally the same amount as his kill leader, which is Diggersby. Diggersby has 20 KOs, and Diancie, Salamence, and Alakazam combined have 20 KOs. And his second kill leader is Mudsdale. Like, Salamence, Diancie, and Alakazam aren't even in the second kill leader. He has one of the most well-rounded teams, and the stats that he has for those teams like Diggersby and Mudsdale being the top 2 KO leaders just speak for themselves. Number 6, I have A-Drive. A-Drive really impressed me with how he's used Lycanroc and Gastrodon this season. Gastrodon made it really annoying and awkward for a lot of his opponents' special attackers, especially paired up with Skarmory and Florges. And the way he ended the season to beat an undefeated coach was incredible as well. Obviously, both coaches did not want to utilize their best strategies as they were both clinched for playoffs, and they had to consider playing them in the playoffs later on. But it was still pretty impressive to be able to stop Joey from going undefeated. I know Joey really wanted to go undefeated, so it's not like Joey didn't care either. Number 4, I have Wolf. Wolf is the reigning champion of the WBE, and his record this season did not disappoint. I love the way he was able to utilize all sorts of chip damage on his team to enable win conditions. Between the sand status damage, the hit and run strategy with Torn and Mandibuzz, his opponents took more damage than him, which led him into the late game, which he was usually ahead in. And after that, he was able to just utilize Excadrill, Blastoise with priority, and stuff like that to be able to just win the late game. My favorite game of the season was his game versus Pokemon, which I think was just masterly played. And his season, obviously, like I said, has been amazing so far. And his losses were pretty tough, but his wins were just as good as how bad his losses were. Number 3, I have Gator. Gator suffered a big loss at the final game of the season. It's a shame 2 of the hottest coaches in the league had to play each other and have the game mattering to both sides. If Uzi didn't win, he didn't get a playoff spot. If Gator didn't win, he didn't get a bye. And if you told me in the beginning of the season that Celebi would be the Mon that he utilized the most, and it was top 3 in deaths, I would think that he had a bad season, but in fact it's been the complete opposite. only 2 losses, and nearly got a bye at that. So great season for Gator. Number 2, I have Envy. Envy's clutch factor this season has been incredible. He has this aura about him where he puts fear into his opponents and they make suboptimal plays. And he had a few close calls, but he was able to put his opponents in situations to make awkward plays, and he was able to pull through as a result of that. The buy is going to be very useful for Envy, as any coach facing Uzi right now is going to be tough, and he definitely wanted to dodge him. Number 1, I have Joey. Joey obviously has been number 1 since like week 3 or 4 of the league, and he's just carrying his momentum into the playoffs. Obviously the loss versus A-Drive it hurt him a little bit, but it didn't really matter that much, as A-Drive, you don't really want to reveal your best strategy against A-Drive when he's also in the playoffs as well. The thing about the game versus A-Drive as well is that it took him the entire regular season and the last turn of that game, and it was a 50-50 on that turn to decide if he was going to go undefeated in the regular season or not. And that just had to go all the way down to the wire for him to even take a loss, and that's just incredible. Him and Envy have buys for the first round of the playoffs, and hopefully they don't underestimate their opponents in the second round and make cocky plays, otherwise they might be in some trouble. And that is my power rankings for the final week of the WBE. Peace.